You're listening to 106.9 here on Tune FM, the home of UNE's student-powered radio. Today in the studio, we are joined by Michael Bramford, a solicitor of a local law firm, two-time UNE alumni, and part owner of a legal division and business that has recently implemented a 4-day work week. Now, the 4-day work week is sort of the hot topic at the moment, thanks to the ACTU and the Productivity Commission that has been going on for the past week. So we're going to dive into that and sort of see what it looks like in a business that has implemented it. So thanks, Michael, for joining me.
No problem. It's good to be here.
So to get started, tell us a bit about, your background and how you came to be in this line of work.
Yeah, good question. Look, I've been lucky enough to travel around Australia. I grew up in Tamworth all my life, and then as I got older, I went to UNE the first time on campus, and then actually my role was to basically take over businesses and fix them up and make them better and move on again. So for 15 years, I did that, travelling around Australia every 2 years, moving and mainly taking over retail and fast-moving consumer goods businesses. And that was really enjoyable. But once we had kids, we settled down, moved back to Tamworth after living in Western Australia and all over the country, as I mentioned. And recently started working with Mark Slacksmith at Slacksmith Partners, and we decided to launch a legal division, which is how we've done it. So we've got an office in Tamworth and working with some great people and established firms here. And that's been a huge learning curve, but also a great experience to come back and start being part of the community again.
And I imagine it's not really, if there's not a learning curve, is it actually fun to do, right? Like there's got to be a bit of challenge to something.
Definitely. Anyone who knows what we're like is that we'll basically, if it looks hard, we'll have a go. So that's realistically our approach to most things. So if someone else has done it, then it's probably not the hardest path. So we'll try and find a way they haven't yet. That's
how you forge ahead, isn't it? Yeah. So how did you find out about the 4-day work week? What was your first thoughts when you first heard about it?
Look, it's one of the things with having Mark Slacksmith as part of that group. He's definitely got a visionary component around how he wants to look after his people. It's something that's popped up a number of times over the years for him, I'm sure. But realistically, he wanted a way that he can get really good quality engagement, look after his people, and also make sure that as a result of that, all of that positive engagement generally equates to a better outcome for clients. So he floated the idea and discussed it with the team and really got a lot of feedback and collaborative work with the team to make sure that it was the right fit for them and for the clients. There was obviously a lot of nervousness around how that would impact client interactions and whether we were able to maximise the output. It has definitely benefited everyone that we've spoken to, both internally and externally, but there are always some friction points that need to be worked through. So those need to be done openly and honestly, and that's something that we did very early on, particularly around some people being part-time, some people maybe not getting the benefits straight away. What happens if some people, that Friday doesn't necessarily fit for them? What happens if it falls on a public holiday? How do we manage that process? So we have to make sure that we're honest and open, and we definitely have a policy within our company that if there's an issue, we talk about it. So because otherwise that toxicity can really build up, because something could be perceived as a change that benefits one and not another. And if that is the case, then that needs to be addressed head on, because it's not a one size fits all.
And I think that's sort of the way we have to look at implementing things as well. We had this discussion in my own office, actually, as I was bringing this up and going, anyone know who I can talk to? Like, is there a lecturer in business or something? And a colleague mentioned you by name, and we had this discussion about how it doesn't really work for every person. It's not going to be, as you say, like one size fits all. There's going to have to be a give and take, particularly for something like completely changing the work week that has such a it's ingrained culturally into how we do it. Was there much resistance for you guys?
It's an interesting one. The resistance probably came from me. I'm probably the candidate to put my hand up and say that when I was talking about it externally to being a part of the company that I'm in now, I was definitely someone from taking over businesses and seeing how much the wage cost is a huge line on any business, and for particularly in businesses I was running with 7-day traders. So I could never see how it would fit into a jigsaw puzzle like that without increasing the cost to the consumer. And that gives you a competitive disadvantage by running something like this. So that's something that needs to be addressed pretty closely. I still don't have an answer for that, but in professional services firms like ours, there is ways to implement it, and we do need to address it. A 4-day work week, maybe that wouldn't work for us, but a 9-day fortnight is how we've implemented it. So we work from 8:30 till 5:30, 9 days, and on this every second Friday we close the office. Now, it's not a 5-man operation. This is a firm that has over 40 employees and over 5 locations. We've got Armidale, Tamworth, Narrabri, Moree, and Gunnedah, and all of those offices, with the exception of one, close, and that's just because our legal firm is only legal at the moment in Armidale. So we actually are working a system whereby we rotate that, because legal problems don't operate on a timeline in every situation, and things like conveyancing, where settlements might pop up on a Friday and you can't say to the client, by the way, that doesn't suit us, and tell your bank to change the discharge date and change the PEXA, settlement date. We have to work with our clients to give the best service. Otherwise, that puts us at a disadvantage, and also our clients wouldn't get the best possible outcome.
Has there been much annoyance from clients, or are they finding that it works for them as well?
No, we found the clients, as long as you're communicating correctly and you're really on the front foot, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is our engagement with our clients at every level. So we communicate this, we communicate it on socials, we communicate it in email, we communicate it on our phone systems. So we make sure that there's plenty of warning, but we're also very open. I mean, our team don't just operate on an 8:30 to 5:30 basis in most cases. We always encourage them to disconnect and switch off, but they are very committed to their clients, and regularly we will see people communicating on their basis. So sometimes a client might have an issue and need to have a meeting at 7 a.m. because they own a small business. Mark leads from the front foot and has those meetings as well. It's not uncommon to see him going to a meeting at 7 a.m. or meeting with a client after hours, because we deal with large businesses and small businesses across the region, from Melbourne to North Queensland and everything in between. We've got clients literally all over the country, and in some cases the world. We took the approach of even down to opening up an Indian office, where we have an office based in India. It is Slacksmith Partners employees. They are Australian trained and accredited employees, and in that sense, we are able to operate a longer work hour for those clients, and then that way they come online later and they finish later, so that those clients can be better catered for. Because one of the biggest challenges is, and this goes to our 9-day fortnight and wanting to look after our people, is that we have a real struggle in regional areas to get properly qualified people and keep them. Good talent is extremely difficult to find. So it's better for recruiting. As soon as we tell people we have a 9-day fortnight, their eyes open up and go, what does that look like? Is that real, or is it a fairy tale? Because a lot of employers say they have a 9-day fortnight, but the phones, or there's an expectation, or there's something.
Someone's on call.
That, right? The out of office comes on a Thursday afternoon. And it was only 2 weeks ago that I was listening to people saying, I'm going to the beach, or I'm going over to the coast with the family for the weekend. So it is really exciting to have that. But at the same time, it means that our team are more engaged, and we get good quality people and we keep them. Yeah. So that's a big part of it.
And the ACTU, the Australian Council for Trade Unions, I believe I've remembered the acronym correctly, they're pushing for a 4-day work week amongst a number of unions and a number of trades at the moment. It's worked for you, you'd say. So you implemented it back in March. How have you seen productivity change?
It's a good question. I mean, productivity is one of those things that is heavily reliant on the industry, like we spoke about earlier. I'm always cautious about anyone legislating or mandating it, because I think once it becomes that level of implementation, then it's not necessarily a positive thing for productivity in nearly all cases. But if a business wants to implement it, it can be done and not lose productivity. We find one of our teams, particularly in Gunnedah, and it's run by one of our partners, Paul, he has some of the best lodgement rates in tax matters that we've seen, and he's had the 9-day fortnight for longer than anyone. So it can be done. The clients don't lose out, and our productivity doesn't drop. But you need to make sure, it always comes with a caveat, we've got the right people and we've got the right level of accountability in a lot of cases. Is there areas we could do better? 100%. And we acknowledge that, and we're always working on that, because we're always understanding that if we think we're perfect, we're definitely not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And productivity, I think it's the big buzzword right now. Everyone's sort of throwing productivity around with streamers and confetti and trying to make it, a bit bigger and better. Is it, you've said that you don't think it's going to work for every single business or every single business model. From your experience as someone who's gone in and taken over and improved other businesses, and you've been doing that for a while, what areas do you think it would not work in?
Yeah, look, the retail industry is particularly challenging because they have competitive disadvantages at the moment already with online shopping and offshoring and big companies that operate outside of Australia and don't necessarily align with the same legislative provisions that they need to. So they're already there. If you've got people, and they're such a large employer in Australia, that it needs to be carefully considered whether or not we put too much stress on those industries. But at the same time, we still need to make sure we're looking after people that do work in those industries. So I think there's things like that. You look at even the hospitality sector and the food-based industries. I've got a lot of friends that run businesses in those industries, and they're always under any wage increase is extremely sensitive, and therefore to have more people to accommodate those sorts of changes is extremely stressful for those businesses. So how we manage that, whether that's done in a different way, I'm not sure. But I think from a productivity level, I think we also need to remember that there's a lot of changes coming into all industries with AI coming in on board. How we implement technological advances and how our businesses better adapt to those changes is going to be significantly impacting the productivity, and maybe we can utilise some of those benefits to take the stress off the people and give them the flexibility of the different work rates. Because I think one of the things that can be seen is that we don't want to differentiate. People aren't like coal to be fed into a machine to give an output, and I think we need to remember that and look after those people and foster them and grow them and make sure that they're properly looked after, because if we do that, then the output gets better. We don't want to feed them in and then go, right, we're going to burn out on the sake of productivity. We'll just push more people or get them to do more work. We can't do that all the time, but we can augment their capabilities with technology and through different things and improved processes. So I think, government and agencies need to look at, all right, what processes can we mandate? What different things can we get companies or support them to implement, whether that's financially or through support networks or training or development, that would give a better productivity output.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think it's refreshing to hear, because I feel like there is a lot of people out there, possibly students, possibly listeners, who they are working in retail and they're busting their asses off, like 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 if they work in something like, like a grocery store or something that has extended hours, that are thinking, well, these people in offices and firms and these higher up businesses, they can afford to have a 4-day work week, but I can't. But I think what you're saying is something that maybe a lot of people who are talking about a 4-day work week they're not really considering. And so I'm wondering then, as someone who started out not being fully supportive of the 4-day work week and thinking, this is kind of like a load of bull. I mean,
yeah. I was definitely in that camp, yeah.
And now moving towards implementing it and actually really enjoying and seeing how beneficial it's been. What would you say to other people who are in that camp of, I think this is bull?
Yeah, it's a good question. And to your original point, I mean, I used to go to university here, and I was 20 years old, and I stacked hay from 6 a.m. in the morning till lunchtime, and then I used to deliver pizzas at night. So I understand how important. You can't just go, all right, we're going to do a 4-day work week, or you can't increase productivity. I can only move so many bales of hay, and I can only deliver so many pizzas. So I completely understand that mentality. But to your point around, what would I say to them? I think the key thing is to be open-minded and work with people that that want to implement this changes like that and are open to change. It's an interesting challenge in that you need to understand that, or no one needs to, but I've probably understood better that by looking at things that we can do better in these areas, they're never binary. They're never, it won't work or it will work. It might work well in this area, but we need to be considerate of this issue. Or it might be, okay, I can see all these negatives. Let me talk to some people where there might be some positives, because I can tell you our team look forward to that Friday, not just because it's a day off, but because they go, right, that gives them the ability to get all those things done on a Friday and then have an actual weekend. I mean, it's a huge part, and the team are genuinely proud of the ability to be able to do that. The leadership group have been really engaged in getting that done, and it's a testament. Mark and Susie, who started and own that business fundamentally, they drive these sorts of changes every day, and it's not just this, whether it's this or whether it's we do lots of different philanthropical things around the community, or we have a run club that we do internally and people track their steps every week, or we have an Engage and Inspire committee that do different things in the community. Those things, if you just look at the dollars and the cents, okay, it's a cost. But the output that it gives to the community and the people that are engaged in it means that they're part of something bigger than just turning up and getting a paycheck each week. So things like this are probably the walk to those people that don't want to do it, as opposed to saying, yeah, I really look after my people. Well, do you? If you can do something, would you?
Yeah,
I guess is the answer. And they might go, my clients won't do it. Well, ask your clients. Speak to them. Say, would you support us if we did this? If the answer is no, well, now you've got some real data that you can have a conversation about. But if the answer is, look, what does that look like? Well, now you've got a different conversation to have.
I think it all starts with that conversation. If you're not having the conversation, you're not going to get anywhere.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Always the great point to start with. Before we wrap up, Michael, is there anything else that you want to add that I've overlooked, forgotten to mention, or maybe didn't follow up on?
Look, it comes down to, I think one of those things is it comes down to the leadership that you have in any business. It's not me that drives that change. I'm probably sit there in the background and go, look, sounds like a great idea, but I will always, as someone who works in the legal profession, look at the negative first and go, what could hurt us? But when you've got people like Mark and like other people that have gone through and really pushed through the implementation of this, we've got Logan who really drove it in our administrative team as well, and the team got behind it and supported it, then that meant that, we could actually get it done. So it's great to talk about, but you've still got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in today, Michael. I hope that, people out there listening, maybe they've got a slightly more positive look on it, or they're at the very least going to question it a little bit further and, as you say, keep that open mind.
No, thank you.
You're listening to 106.9 Tune FM. Stay tuned in here on Student Powered Radio.